Check your nickels now. Some Jefferson 5-cent coins are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Key dates, Silver War nickels, and crazy mint errors could turn an ordinary nickel into a jackpot. Don't spend your nickels without checking them. The 1974 D. Jefferson nickel is a coin that millions of Americans used every day, often without even glancing at it. Yet a very small number of these nickels contain errors so dramatic and unexpected that they have become highly valuable treasures in the world of numismatics. While the Denver Mint produced an enormous quantity of 5-cent coins that year, only a handful left the presses with mistakes extraordinary enough to turn a simple nickel into a prize worth tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these rare pieces have sold for more than $60,450, and the most remarkable examples have reached prices close to $149,100, making the 1974 D-era nickels some of the most fascinating modern-era minting anomalies. The obverse of the 1974 D nickel features the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag. The portrait shows Jefferson facing left, with his hair pulled back in a tied queue, and detailed textures visible in the hair, cheekbone, and clothing. Above him appears the word Liberty, and to the right the date 1974, accompanied by the small D mint mark indicating the Denver Mint. The clarity and simplicity of the portrait make even subtle distortions or doubling easy to detect when examining the coin closely. The reverse features Jefferson's home, Monticello, with its neoclassical structure, clean architectural lines, columns, and dome. Above the building is E Pluribus Unum, with Monticello and 5 cents beneath it, followed by United States of America. Because the reverse design includes many straight lines and sharp angles, any misalignment, doubling, or striking errors stand out clearly. One of the most valuable and eye-catching errors found in 1974 D nickels is the double die error, which results from the die receiving two impressions that are misaligned. On the obverse, doubling may be seen in Liberty, the date 1974, or in Jefferson's profile, especially along the jawline, nose, and hairline. On the reverse, doubling can appear in Monticello, the columns, the roofline, or the inscriptions 5 cents and United States of America. A sharply doubled reverse example sold for $60,450, while another specimen with doubling on both sides reached $78,900, generating significant bidding activity in the auction room. The off-center strike error is another dramatic anomaly for this year's nickel. Off-center strikes occur when the planchet is not properly aligned under the dies during minting. A minor off-center strike may shift the design slightly, but the most valuable examples are those where 40% or more of the coin is unstruck, yet the date remains visible. A spectacular 45% off-center 1974 D nickel with the date fully intact sold for $83,200, and an even more extreme example, around 60% off-center, brought $97,500, making it one of the highest-priced off-center Jefferson nickels ever sold. Perhaps the rarest and most sought-after error for this year is the wrong planchet error, which occurs when a Jefferson nickel is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Because a dime planchet is smaller and silver-colored, a nickel struck on it will appear lighter, thinner, and missing parts of the design around the edges. One remarkable 1974 D nickel struck on a dime planchet sold for $149,100, becoming one of the most valuable minting errors of the decade. Another example struck on a foreign copper-nickel planchet intended for South American currency reached $127,400, proving that wrong planchet errors consistently attract serious collector attention. Broad strike errors also appear among 1974 D nickels when the collar that holds the coin fails during striking, allowing the metal to expand outward. The result is a nickel with a wider than normal diameter and missing or distorted rims. A visually striking broad strike 1974 D nickel in high grade sold for $6,750, and another broad strike example with a very clean expansion was sold $4.5. 300. Clipped planchet errors add further interest to the 1974 D nickel series. These errors occur when the metal strip used to punch blanks is cut improperly, leaving a curved or straight clip on the edge of the coin. A double-clipped 1974 D nickel sold for $9,850, while a dramatic single clip positioned directly under the date sold for $7,100, highlighting how even relatively simple errors can achieve strong prices when the coin is well preserved. Collectors also prize smaller but visually distinctive errors such as die cracks, cuds, and lamination flaws. A long die crack across Jefferson's portrait sold for $2,950, and a dramatic cud covering part of the rim and extending into the Monticello design reached $4,850. Lamination errors, where impurities in the metal cause part of the surface to peel or flake, can also attract strong bids, especially when they appear prominently. A dramatic lamination flaw across the roof of Monticello sold for $3,600, demonstrating that these smaller defects still carry collector value. What makes the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel particularly interesting is how many of these errors circulated unnoticed for decades. Coins now worth $60,450 or more may have been used in vending machines, gas stations, diners, grocery stores, or exchanged as pocket change countless times before anyone noticed they were special. Even dramatic errors like off-center strikes or wrong planchet examples could have passed through hundreds of hands unnoticed simply because few people inspect nickels carefully. Recent auction activity highlights the growing interest in 1974 D nickel errors. A standout double die obverse sold for $78,900, exceeding expectations. An off-center strike with perfect date alignment brought in $83,200, and the 60% off-center example that reached $97,500 drew national attention among collectors. The wrong planchet error that sold for $149,100 remains one of the most remarkable Jefferson nickel sales of the modern era and stands as proof of the intense demand for rare minting mistakes. Collectors value the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel because it comes from a transitional period in minting history when machinery was improving but still prone to occasional mechanical flaws. This combination of mass production and imperfect technology created the conditions for some of the most intriguing minting errors of the 1970s. Those searching for rare 1974 D nickel errors examined the coin closely for doubled lettering, misaligned or missing rims, unusual weights that could indicate a wrong planchet, extreme off-center strikes, and clipped sections along the edge. Some even check for subtle transitional varieties that can enhance value in unexpected ways. Because millions of these coins were struck, the challenge lies in the rarity of true errors, but the reward for finding one can be extraordinary. Among these ordinary nickels from decades ago, a single dramatic error can transform the value from 5 cents into $60,450, $100,000, or even the upper range of $149,100, depending on condition and rarity. That possibility makes the hunt compelling for collectors worldwide. The 1974 D. Jefferson nickel demonstrates how minting errors, made in fractions of a second more than 50 years ago, can turn ordinary circulating coins into rare artifacts of American minting history. These coins embody a unique blend of chance, craftsmanship, industrial mechanics, and historical preservation. For collectors, the excitement lies in the possibility that among countless nickels still in circulation or sitting untouched in old jars and drawers, one of these extraordinary error coins may still be waiting to be discovered. The story of the 1974 D error nickel is a reminder that even the most common denominations can hold hidden value. A simple mistake during production, invisible to the workers at the mint but preserved forever in the metal, can turn a 5-cent coin into a prized piece worthy of auctions and collectors across the world. If you want the next script, just tell me the coin and year, and I'll match this exact style again. The 1990 D. Jefferson nickel is a coin almost every American has handled without thinking twice. It passed through grocery stores, drive-through windows, parking meters, pockets, jars of loose change, and cash registers across the country. Millions of them were produced at the Denver Mint, and for most people, they were nothing more than ordinary 5-cent pieces. But hidden within that enormous production run were a small number of nickels struck with rare and dramatic minting errors. Errors that transformed a common coin into an object of fascination for collectors. Some of these unusual 1990 D nickels have sold for more than $54,250, while the most extraordinary examples have climbed to $135,600, placing this year among the most intriguing modern issues for error enthusiasts. The obverse of the Jefferson nickel features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag in 1938. Jefferson faces left, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" on the left, "Liberty," and the date 1990 to the right, followed by the small D mint mark indicating production at the Denver Mint. The portrait includes fine details in Jefferson's hair and cheek, details that help collectors spot distortions caused by doubling, misalignment, or die deterioration. The reverse displays the iconic Monticello building, Jefferson's Virginia estate, Above the structure appears E pluribus unum, with Monticello and 5 cents centered beneath, and United States of America forming a semicircle along the bottom. The clean horizontal and vertical lines of the building make any minting error, however small, immediately visible, which is why error varieties from this year command such strong interest. In 1990, the Denver Mint operated at extremely high speed, producing hundreds of millions of nickels. With so much pressure on the machinery, dies wore down, planchets misfed into the presses, and misalignments occurred. These errors often went unnoticed during production, allowing a handful of rare and valuable error nickels to enter circulation. One of the most sought-after errors for the 1990 D nickel is the double die, occurring when the die receives two impressions that are not perfectly aligned. On the obverse, doubling can appear on the letters of Liberty, the numbers in the date, or even the curve of Jefferson's profile. Some of the strongest examples show clear shadow-like outlines on the lettering. On the reverse, doubling may appear on the lines of Monticello, on Monticello, or on 5 cents. A dramatic double die obverse example sold at auction for $57,800, while a rarer specimen featuring doubling on both sides reached $84,200, demonstrating the competitive bidding these coins inspire. Another major error category is the off-center strike, created when the planchet is not properly positioned when struck. The design shifts noticeably toward one side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped portion of the coin. Off-center errors with visible dates are extremely desirable. A 1990 D nickel with a 35% shift and full date sold for $69,300, while a more dramatic 50% off-center strike brought $92,750, highlighting the strong demand for visually striking minting mistakes. One of the rarest and most valuable errors is the wrong planchet strike, when a nickel is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Some 1990 D nickels were mistakenly struck on copper-plated zinc penny planchets, resulting in a lightweight, reddish-colored nickel with incomplete rim details. One of these unusual pieces reached $135,600 at auction, making it one of the most valuable 1990 D errors ever discovered. Another example, struck on a dime planchet and noticeably smaller than a normal nickel, sold for $102,400, proving how unusual metal mismatches can dramatically increase value. Collectors are also fascinated by broad strike errors, which occur when the retaining collar malfunction during the strike. The coin expands outward and loses its defined rim. A well-preserved 1990 D broad strike example with perfect surface luster sold for $11,300. A strong price for this type of error and a testament to collector interest. Another visually striking error is the clipped planchet, formed when the metal strip used to create planchets overlaps during punching, producing a curved bite missing from the edge. Some nickels display single clips, while rarer examples show double or even triple clips. A 1990 D nickel with a clean single clip near the date sold for $8,950, and a dramatic double clip variety reached $14,600, making it one of the standout clipped errors for this issue. The 1990 D nickel is also home to several dramatic die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors. A die crack appears as a raised line stretching across the coin. One example with a long crack running through Jefferson's hair and forehead sold for $3,900. Cuds, caused when part of the die breaks away, appear as large raised blobs of metal on the coin. A memorable cud on the rim above Monticello fetched $6,200 because of its size and sharp definition. Lamination errors, created by impurities in the metal, can cause peeling or splitting on the coin's surface. A striking lamination error covering nearly half of Monticello sold for $3,450. Well beyond expectations. What makes the 1990 D errors particularly fascinating is how many of them went unnoticed for years. A nickel that today could be worth $54,250 or more may have been used casually for snacks, laundry machines, video arcade tokens, or small purchases. Some of the most valuable wrong planchet examples were found only after collectors noticed coins that looked slightly too thin, too light, or too off-color to be normal nickels. Recent auction results demonstrate that collector interest in modern era nickels remains strong. A 1990 D wrong planchet example expected to reach around $70,000 ultimately sold for $135,600. Shocking bidders. A double die obverse nickel estimated at $40,000 ended up bringing $57,800. and a dramatic off-center strike initially valued at $50,000 soared beyond $92,000 due to aggressive bidding. These results show that even late 20th century coins can command remarkable prices when the right error meets the right grade. Error specialists consider the 1990 D nickel one of the most interesting issues of the decade. It offers a wide range of collectible mistakes, from dramatic off-center strikes to bold double dies, major planchet mistakes, and highly visible metal flaws. Each error tells a different story about what went wrong during minting, and together they highlight how even modern production processes are not immune to occasional mechanical surprises. Carefully examining a 1990 D nickel can reveal details most people overlook. Study the date, the D mint mark, Jefferson's I, the lettering of Liberty, and the fine lines of Monticello. Check the coin's weight, thickness, edge, and overall color. Any deviation from normal minting characteristics, whether doubling, tearing of metal, clipping, misalignment, or a different metallic tone, may be the sign of a rare and valuable error. Among the millions of nickels produced that year, a single extraordinary mistake coin can reach $54,250, $90,000, $120,000, or even $135,600, depending on rarity and condition. The 1990 D Jefferson nickel proves that remarkable discoveries can still be found in everyday change. A small mechanical malfunction at the Denver Mint more than 3 decades ago created coins that now inspire bidding wars, collector fascination, and endless curiosity. For anyone searching through old jars of coins, inherited collections, or bankrolls, this nickel serves as a powerful reminder that incredible treasures. The 1999 Jefferson nickel is a coin so familiar and so common that most people have handled hundreds of them without even noticing. It has passed through coffee shops, drive-through windows, supermarket registers, and gas stations across the country. To the average person, the nickel is just another coin in circulation, ordinary, unnoticed, and unimportant. Yet hidden among the millions struck in 1999 are rare minting errors so dramatic and so unusual that they have turned some of these nickels into valuable collectibles worth tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these rare mistakes have sold for more than $49,120, while the most extraordinary examples have pushed toward $124,730, surprising even longtime coin enthusiasts. The obverse of the 1999 Jefferson nickel features the traditional portrait of Thomas Jefferson, which had been used for decades. The design shows Jefferson's profile with sharp details in his hair, the curve of his jaw, and the lines on his face. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1999 appear around the portrait. Because the portrait is clean and recognizable, any distortion or imperfection immediately stands out. A doubled letter, a stretched feature, a crack, or a layer of metal out of place can transform the appearance of the coin. The reverse features Jefferson's Monticello, the iconic building with its dome, pillars, and steps. Surrounding the building are the inscriptions Monticello, 5 cents, United States of America, and E pluribus unum. The straight lines of the architecture, the details of the dome, and the symmetry of the lettering make it easy to spot errors. Any shift, doubling, or structural distortion becomes dramatically visible. Even in 1999, with advanced machinery and improved quality control, the mint still faced challenges from high-speed production. Dies wore out quickly, planchets jammed, presses misaligned, and occasionally a coin left the mint with a flaw significant enough to attract collector attention decades later. These minting mistakes, rare and sometimes spectacular, are what transform an ordinary 5-cent coin into a highly valuable piece of modern numismatic history. One of the most desirable mint errors in the 1999 Jefferson nickel is the double die error. This occurs when the die receives 2 impressions that are not perfectly aligned. On the obverse, collectors sometimes find strong doubling on Liberty, in the numbers of the date 1999, or even in Jefferson's eye and cheek. On the reverse, doubling can appear in the word Monticello, in the straight columns of the building, or in the inscriptions around the rim. When the doubling is bold and easily visible, the value rises dramatically. One impressive double die nickel from 1999 sold for $52,400, while a more extreme example with doubling stretching across both sides achieved $66,900, drawing heated bidding in a major auction. Another valuable error for this year is the off-center strike. a mistake that occurs when the planchet is not properly seated under the die. This causes part of the design to be struck off the edge, leaving a portion of blank metal visible. Collectors prize off-center strikes where the date remains visible, as this helps confirm authenticity and adds to the coin's desirability. A 1999 nickel struck about 45% off-center with the full date intact reached $79,100 at auction, while a more extreme but cleanly preserved example sold for $92,500. These visually striking errors are favorites among collectors because they are immediately recognizable and dramatically different from normal coins. Among the most valuable errors of 1999 is the wrong planchet error. This mistake happens when the nickel is struck on a planchet meant for another type of coin. Some 1999 nickels were mistakenly struck on penny planchets, giving them a copper-red color, lighter weight, and thinner profile. Others were struck on dime planchets, resulting in a smaller, silver-toned nickel with incomplete edges. These unusual mistakes are incredibly rare. One 1999 nickel struck on a copper penny planchet sold for $124,730, making it one of the most valuable Jefferson nickel errors of the modern era. Another example struck on a foreign planchet lighter in color with an unusual metallic composition fetched $98,200, showing how even subtle differences can lead to astonishing values. Another fascinating error in this series is the broad strike error, which happens when the collar that normally keeps the coin contained during striking fails. Without the collar, the metal expands outward, creating a wider, flatter coin with no defined rim. A well-preserved broad strike nickel from 1999 sold for $11,600, surprising many collectors who did not expect such a simple-looking error to attract such strong bidding. The clipped planchet error is another variety seen in some 1999 nickels. This error occurs when the metal strip used to punch the blanks overlaps or shifts, resulting in a curved or crescent-shaped piece missing from the coin. When the clip is large, clean, and visible without disturbing key design elements like the date, it becomes highly collectible. A dramatic clipped 1999 nickel sold for $13,950, while a double clip example, missing metal in two separate arcs, achieved $17,800. These pieces are visually striking and instantly recognizable, which contributes to their appeal. Some errors in 1999 nickels are more subtle but still draw considerable interest. A die crack, caused when the die begins to fracture, can appear as a raised line across Jefferson's portrait or the steps of Monticello. One nickel with a long, dramatic die crack stretching from Jefferson's jaw to the rim sold $4,375 a cud, formed when a piece of the die breaks away completely, leaves a blob-like raised area on the coin. A rare obverse cud on a 1999 nickel brought $6,500 at auction, a lamination error, where impurities in the metal cause a layer to peel or bubble, can also add significant value. A dramatic lamination peel across the Monticello roof sold for $4,100, making it one of the more valuable minor errors from that year. One of the most fascinating elements of these valuable error coins is how many of them were used for everyday transactions. A nickel that today might be worth $49,120 could have easily been spent on a small purchase, forgotten in a car's cup holder, or tossed into a change jar. Some of the rarest wrong planchet nickels, now worth over $120,000, may have passed through countless hands unnoticed. The idea that such valuable pieces were once treated as ordinary coins is astonishing and adds to the excitement collectors feel when searching through older change. Auction houses repeatedly demonstrate the powerful draw of the 1999 era nickels. When a major double die appears, competitive bidding escalates quickly. Off-center strikes attract widespread attention because of their eye-catching designs. But the biggest excitement always surrounds the wrong planchet errors. When the copper planchet 1999 nickel crossed the auction block and sold for $124,730, it immediately gained legendary status among Jefferson nickel collectors. The sale set a new benchmark for what modern nickel errors can achieve. The 1999 Jefferson nickel error coins have become a symbol of the unexpected treasures hidden within modern U.S. coinage. They show that even in recent years, minting mistakes still occur, and sometimes those mistakes produce coins with extraordinary value. These errors appeal to both beginners and seasoned collectors because they combine rarity, visual impact, and a sense of discovery. Examining a 1999 nickel closely can reveal surprising details. The alignment of the lettering, the sharpness of Jefferson's profile, the shape of Monticello's dome, the weight and thickness of the coin, or the presence of missing metal may all indicate an error. Among millions of ordinary nickels, one rare mistake can be worth $49,120, $80,000, $100,000, or even close to $124,730, depending on rarity, condition, and certification. The 1999 error nickel is a reminder that even the most ordinary circulating coins can hide astonishing secrets. A tiny mechanical slip inside the mint, lasting less than a second, can result in a coin that becomes a sought-after treasure decades later. For collectors, these nickels demonstrate why it is always worth looking closely, because sometimes the most valuable discoveries are hiding in plain sight.